Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. In COVID-19 times, how is managing the economy going to look like? How challenging or easy it is? Well, today we are privileged to have the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, as we look at managing the economy in COVID-19 times. What is he doing to ensure that you and I are safe and be able to weather the storms? This is the Business Edition of PM Express. My name is JoyNews. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back from the commercial break. PM Express Business Edition. We look at COVID-19 and the economy. And I'll say I'm privileged to have the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, with me. Good day, sir, and how are you doing?
I'm well, God's grace. It's pretty good. I think we've been blessed as a people to have come this far. And so I'm pretty confident about the future. I mean, I think you mentioned something about how do we weather the storm. And I'm saying that we are going to prosper through the storm.
Are you having sleepless nights in this COVID-19 times when everybody is looking up to you to come up with that magic wand?
I'm not sure. I mean, of course, the Lord will lead us. But really, it has been frightening and challenging and humbling throughout the period because you certainly plan. We planned for a 4.7 budget deficit. And we're very clear that we're going to be able to maintain that through. And then suddenly there's COVID, which has thrown everything out of gear. And it's not a passing frigate. It's something that is going to stay with us for a while. And so what do you then do to be able to sustain and create an environment for prosperity? And I think this is where the issue as we sit here today, the issue of resilience that we have built in the economy comes to play. Because we were fortunate enough to go to the markets very early in February, and you ask, how come you did that? It's the earliest we've done in our history. But they gave us $3 billion, which sort of settled the market. I think really year to date, I'm not sure whether it's more than 2.23%. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah, and that is just remarkable. I mean, usually by now, I think 2017 was 4, 2018 was about 6 or 8, and 2019, of course, was just very disruptive. And so you can see where the resilience we have built has been helpful. Inflation, as you know, it's gone to 11.3% or so, but that's clearly due to COVID, which I think the government statistician did mention was a 3% differential, which you attribute to COVID. And then an economy which is going to shrink by literally 6% in such a short period. And to see growth plummet that far, for revenues expected to come down by about 14 billion, and for us to be in this current state where inflation is not that bad, foreign exchange has been good, and growth is where it is. And so I think the issue for most people is to have the comfort that we are comfortable with what we are doing. We are being competent about that. And we will intend not only to keep Ghana stable, but also to recover much faster than other places.
What do I get from you that if it hadn't been COVID, and I spoke to even to some government officials who were trying to give me some numbers that, George, if it hadn't been COVID, listen, the real stability that we spoke about some 3 years ago, the numbers we're going to tell you for this year, even in an election year?
I think so. I mean, I think it's very clear because even when it is COVID, and then you are having these foreign exchange numbers these inflation numbers, and even with this downgrade in revenues of about 14 billion, and it's not only body and soul being kept together, but a real care for livelihoods and lives of people, and our intervention into the micro, small, medium enterprises to make sure that even the informal market is taken care of. There's a lot more to do with regards to big businesses and formal businesses, and we expect to intervene on that level in the second half that we are going. And we are in the middle of a recovery program that we are designing to really cut short this recession and ensure that we recover faster than most.
In Parliament, when you went to Parliament, you gave us an update about how big the hole was. You had another month after that. Are you going to revise that, or that is what you're looking at in terms of the revenue shocks that has come as a result of it? How deep is it for us in terms of how COVID has impacted the economy?
Yeah. I think we're going to, well, first of all, when I say that we are moving from 6.8% growth to 0.9% growth, that's easily 6% of the economy. So if 14 billion at the very least is the revenue tailspin, then you have another 6 to 9 billion that may be over expenditures due to COVID-related issues and what we have to do to create a recovery. So you're looking at an impact of what, maybe 20 odd billion or so, and that's the effect. So when you have this type of shock suddenly, and somehow we have this level of stability in the economy, this is when you talk about having built resilience, having had the appropriate programs over the period, which has basically shielded us to a high degree. But there's stuff to go, because when you look around, I mean, really, the stories from my colleague ministers are harrowing. And we all need to step back and see what could have happened if we hadn't managed the situation as well as we have.
Do you think that then going into the next half, it will be about revenue, and then revenue, so that we raise enough to spend in those critical sectors to fast-track the recovery?
I think that's an important point, but and actually, if we look at GRA's returns this year, domestic is actually beyond its budget. You would never have expected, but that's the new management and the intensity for which they are doing. Customs, we still have some issues that we have to solve, but combined, maybe one of the lowest in terms of deviation that we've had these 3-4 years. I think we have to be clear that businesses are suffering. So your challenge is, sure, you have to pay your taxes, but how do you make sure that you give them some flexibility and leeway for that? But more significantly, beyond taxes, is then finding a way to get these businesses back in operation. Because the key thing really, George, is how do you ensure that people have jobs? Because sense of dignity and productivity is going to be important. So that is what I worry about when I go to see how are we that we sustain businesses and we keep people at work.
Would the revenue approach change in terms of trying to still balance the situation, whilst also giving some relief to businesses who are saying that, listen, because of COVID, I don't have what it takes to meet my obligations?
Right. There are, so, which is true, but maybe there are some past obligations which you never did. And then my comeback or my responsibility is how do I find resources to keep these businesses in operation. That's really the issue, to keep productive, because we have seen the response from our pharmaceutical industry with regard to sanitizers and PPEs, that hitherto we were importing. And suddenly we realize our own capacity to do that. And that's very encouraging, and therefore what support we are going to look to give to businesses to keep them functioning and understand that the global supply chains are also disrupted and have to begin to depend on ourselves a lot more.
Should you expect some reliefs for you? If I'm a businessman, should I look forward to some?
What have we done? We have, in the 6 months, made sure that people are safe. And we've tested more than most countries in Africa. Our preparedness plan was fast and swift due to the clarity of the president. I think now maybe we have 25,000 cases, or maybe 3,000, that are active, of which about 67% are in Accra and Kumasi, and the deaths are, way low. Each death is important because the president was very clear that we can bring people back to life, but certainly the economy, we can run that. But you have to keep people alive first. So I think if as a Ghanaian, I'll look at, what, even in this circumstance, the government has been able to do, and the stability in a sense that we have. There are certain personal sacrifices that are going to occur, and we're going to look at all of that in the Midyear to see how we can intervene to also, beyond the CAP bus program for MSMEs, now move to big business, the hospitality industry, tourism, manufacturing, aviation, and see the intervention that we need to do to also kickstart, a recovery.
So for the big businesses, you've done it for the small businesses, Honorable. Are we going to get something for the big businesses as well in terms of a stimulus package?
We have to. George, it's not a question of choice. This really is what you call the organizational capacity of the nation. And we need to find means of ensuring that they are back in business, they are employing people, and they are thriving.
Let's look at the mid-year budget review as well. All that things being equal, you're presenting it on Thursday, that is 23rd. And what should we be expecting from you?
Excitement. No, I think, I marvel at the diligence and the leadership of the president, and therefore what he has charged us to do, that, we came into government not to complain but to solve problems. And this is the biggest problem that Africa or the world has had maybe in about 25 years or so. And so when you see where we are and how we have handled it, I think we are on the road to a country that is feeling confident and capable of what it can do, and that we have to think of the long term beyond the short term. So issues of deficits that somebody will ask you about, and you hear Angela Merkel say, don't talk to me about deficits. This is Germany, okay, because of the extraordinary nature of the pandemic. And I think even the IMF is now a little queasy about that, and they say, well, Paul Collier uses a phrase that he says, you're an era of unknown unknowns, and at best an era of known unknowns. Whichever way, nobody's seen it before. And therefore, your own ingenuity, but first making sure that your human capital, is preserved, and then your organizational capital, and then you begin to talk of other things. And that's what we are looking to do.
In terms of focus, what should we be looking at? You talked, is it going to be more of how we turn around the economy quickly? How do we bring up an aviation program to help minimize the shocks? What will be the focus of this mid-year that you're going to present?
I think all of that. Where are we? In an era of unknowns, knowing that, yes, lives and livelihoods, we have done well these 6 months. That has to be maintained. Small businesses, have been taken care of to a certain degree, and now we have major businesses to tackle and to look forward to a whole revitalization program of agribusiness, manufacturing, and Ghana as a regional hub. You know, we are not deterred by what we have seen, because I think it's an opportunity to really galvanize new energy and dig deep into who we are as, you know, at this year that we came to conquer.
You're doing a supplementary budget as well.
We have to. I mean, certainly if you are needing more resources to be able to do what we have to do at the end of the year. And also, you remember we took some money from the Stability Fund to Contingency Fund, and I have to give a program as to how we're going to replenish that. So those two will come.
When I hear supplementary budget and being an election year, there are some who are worried about it. What do you tell those who might argue that do we need a supplementary budget and also be an election year? They are worried about fiscal discipline and fiscal prudence.
It's amazing when you have millions of people dying in the world, and those would be the issues that you're concerned about. I think that the issue, of course, is the application of the resources that we have. And I don't know, I mean, it's been 3.5 years of seeing how government has operated and what, therefore, the economy has been. And there has to be trust that we will use this money well, at least from the Ministry of Finance. I can assure you that we and the presidency would ensure the resources are used. I mean, we are, you know, confident that by God's grace, the people of Ghana will re-elect us. And if you are doing that, then you don't want to dig a hole for yourself. You truly want to make sure that you start January 2021 on a good note. So that's the assurance.
If you just join us, as PM Express Business Edition and engaging the Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta, explaining to us a lot of issues as well. When we get back from the commercial, he's going to explain to us his support for the SMEs as well, and also this whole donor funding and debt sustainability programs and all the rest. This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back from the commercial break as we talk about COVID-19 and managing the economy in this. The president has said we are not in normal times, and I know that the finance minister will tell us more about the normal and quite challenging times. And Honorable, before the break, we were talking about the presentation of the mid-year budget review, and one would ask that how would COVID-19 influence this budget that you're going to present? Because you also talked about the fact that you want to come up with an alleviation program that would fast track the stability of the economy.
I think, you know, there are a number of things that clearly this COVID incidence has revealed, I guess, to the world and to ourselves. One, that it has a debilitating impact on all of our economies. Two, the issue of the impact of an informal market in Ghana, which is, you know, sort of 90% of employees in the system, and therefore what we have to do to be able to somehow formalize people. So that we can get relief to people and also get people into the economy so that most issues can be dealt with. And then also the issue of burden sharing. As a responsible society in which we all sort of participate in the recovery and an equitable distribution when there's things to do. So I think we as a country, seeing what we have been able to do these 6 months compared to our neighboring countries, is really to sit up and say, okay, how do we even build this resilience to be stronger? And I think we should do something about digitalizing the whole economy. such that access to data is much cheaper, that given obviously an online system for education is now much clearer to us, and that's the infrastructure we must build. Look at our healthcare system and the president bold move for Agenda 88 or 100 hospitals or so that we have to do to tackle some real intractable problems that we have. We don't have unemployment benefits in a system like that, so now it comes front and center as to what we do about that.
Is this something that you consider honorable?
Yeah, I think all of those things for a responsible society should have them. And maybe this is the time to make the bold move for things of that nature, so that everyone is taken care of, and an incidence of something like this, the issue of unemployment, etc., would have been catered for. So those become things that have to come into the Midyear to a certain degree, but more importantly, the revitalization program for the next 3 years that we've been charged to deliver.
In your letter, your very interesting letter in the Financial Times, you gave yourself a projection where you think that the economy could fully come back strong as well. It's been a while since you wrote that letter. Have you revised your projections, thinking that you might need a little bit shorter time to quickly put the economy back, or you still think that you're working within that?
I had, I think, indicated, I guess, what I termed a trapezoid recovery, which means sort of the plummeting impact of the 6.8% to 0.9%, and a slow slide, potentially downwards for about 2-3 years before we pick up again. I'm a lot more confident of the resilience that we have shown, and I think if we intervene very strongly, put classical economics aside and say we are going to intervene boldly, make sure that supply response comes, get people working, get people independent, I think we'll come out much faster.
We look at 2 years or even a year?
No. The program is for 3 years, but within as sort of a reality check. But for me, I mean, I'll be gunning to see how effectively we as Ghanaians will respond. But it's, I mean, we have been working on Zoom, and it's incredible the amount of work we can do. We've cut down. Maybe if you look at our budget for travel and seminars and whatever, of some 93 to 43, maybe it was about 200 or maybe $330 million CDs. I think we've spent about 93 million. Anyhow, we have over 140 million CDs left, of which we are not going to use much. So you begin to see what type of savings you have if we were to digitalize the economy, so that we can do much more together and also get our educational system going.
Interesting. Does it mean that from this personal experience, Honorable, you're going to change the strategy in terms of us fast-tracking all the programs to as moving towards a digitalized economy? Look at the savings that we are making already from your end.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, George. I mean, I think this is just front and center to us. And if you begin to look at also these 1.2 million, Akufo-Addo graduates coming out of senior high school, what I can say, it's not everybody that's going to get into university. So I'm sure we need to begin to think of online systems which would ensure that there is, lifelong education, easily accessible and cheaper. I mean, I think some of our kids who were in school in America are now back home and going to be doing next year online from Ghana. So you begin to realize that, well, then a lot more people living in Ghana could get online education in some of the best schools in the world. And so we need to begin to think about that, and even how our local universities structure the pedagogy that is going to emerge. So that's the exciting part, the realization of how powerful digitalization can be. And we're going to put a lot of money into that to make sure that it happens.
Well, as we celebrate the boom, some also say that it could be a good opportunity to cream part of what is going on there in terms of taxes and all the rest. Is this something that your minister will consider in terms of us, whilst people are trying to shift to that space, if there's a boom in that area, nothing stops the state from creaming part of it in terms of taxes?
Well, I mean, taxes, I don't like using words like cream. Taxes are not meant to be coercive. They are meant for you to pay your fair share in a society that's growing. So in some cases, you have extraordinary profits, which are agreed and taxed. In most cases, your profits grow, which means that my percentage that comes to me is more. But even as you begin to digitalize, you get a much more effective way of examining the taxes that you get from most of these companies. Because you know that illicit flows from Africa is about 70 billion, and about 55% of that is through commercial transactions. So a more effective digitalized society will look to potentially save another 70 billion. So those are that. I think the other area that is also obvious to us is the question of trade. And fortunately, with AFCFTA in Ghana, it gives us a real mandate to look at ourselves as a regional hub, and we're going to work on that. I mean, a 1% increase in world trade for Africa means the income of about 70 billion. So you begin to see how effective that would be. And I think it's opened our eyes to all of these new areas that we should therefore put some money in for a stimulus.
Honorable, in thinking about dealing with, again, the revenue challenges, and whilst we try to streamline and plug all the loopholes, which I know it's a work in progress, with this mid-year review of estimates, should we expect any new taxes, or rather revision in taxes?
I mean, certainly you don't sort of kick a man when a man is down. So it can be an area that we are going to increase any taxes. Compliance will certainly continue, but even still there will be forbearance to give people time to meet that. I think we need to look at the area of digital space as to what we may want to do to encourage more usage, or to reduce the cost of usage for that. So that's still under consideration.
When I hear a supplementary budget, and some are saying that in an election here,
we're going to spend more, and the question is whether you trust that we will allocate the money into productive generating areas. And my suspicion is that if you speak to industry, they will want to see that type of injection. And it's up to you and Ghanaians to judge what we have done in these 3.5 years, whether we are profligate or not. But I think we have accorded ourselves quite well. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry. Expenditures would not be because of elections. It will be because we need a recovery, we need a stimulus, we need security. We may have to make sure that there's food for everyone. Those really will be the driving issues for me.
And are they going to touch the areas that would stimulate growth, some would say? And because that is the biggest challenge now, that, okay, yes, some ministers or even some heads of state are saying that don't talk about deficit now because we need to quickly turn around the economy. Is that a promise from you as well, that, listen, I will spend, but it will touch those productive and sectors that will stimulate growth and fast track our recovery?
Unquestionably. yeah. I mean, and I mean, you dig yourself into an unnecessary hole if by God's grace we are called on for the next term. I think we've done a good job to deserve a second term, and I think we have a lot more dry powder to give to the country to transform our society. And I'm confident that the President's leadership will take us there.
Do you think that their policies have turned around the livelihood of people?
I mean, I think you should be able to say that. What do I do? I mean, I can certainly talk about the macro numbers, and then I can move on to saying that when you look at the LEAP program, you have about maybe 600,000 more people that have joined. The school feeding program is effective. You have 1.2 million more people, SHS. And I think the beauty of it, or the warmth that I feel inside, is that is so distributive across the country. You know, everybody has enjoyed or benefited from the level of free SHS, the more disciplined way in which NHI is done, school feeding. You know, so you can see a government that respects the citizenship and says that as long as you're a citizen, you deserve social mobility. And social mobility can happen if you get education, and we are making sure of that.
COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things. Would it change your approach in terms of funding and support for the health sector? Some are saying that some are saying that COVID-19 will then put a lot of pressure on those who are managing the economy to give more attention to the health sector.
Well, we have to. I mean, I think we've seen the vulnerabilities, and already there's a $1.5 billion program that the president, you know, is launching. Have asked us to see to its realization, and we're in the middle of that. So yes, health is important, education is important, and I think an area that is going to take some real prominence is housing going into the second term. We already have a couple pilot programs in housing that we will launch this year. Yeah.
Are you going to review all your estimates, or there will just be some that will be reviewed?
In terms of the estimates for the half year? Well, when your revenues come down by 14 billion, everything is sort of impacted to a certain way, and then expenditures go up, and you see how you apportion to make sure that the flagship programs, you know, are well protected and continue, and then the new health issues that we have to. So the COVID impact is huge, and we just have to acknowledge that and see how we manage ourselves through that.
Honorable, sitting at the top and looking at, you appreciate issues more than any of us, because we would make judgments sometimes on sentiment and all the rest and blah, blah. For you, what do you think is our biggest challenge as a country, as an economy? And for you also managing the purse, you think that, is it about the allocation of resources? Is it about people being truthful and more of using resources wisely, or it's about the fact that we are still not prepared to commit that much as citizens to the resource basket for it to be spent in very adequate areas?
Yeah, I think the culture of paying taxes and respecting and giving to the Republic what the Republic is due, it's not as robust as I would like. And I think you come to it for me in terms of technology, so that I know everything you earn. You know, I mean, for example, National Insurance Commission has insured about 1.3 million vehicles. DVLA has given roadworthiness licenses to about 3.4 million vehicles. So, you know, that discrepancy, but it is normal, good citizens, who therefore are not getting insurance and driving, and technology will do that, lead to a certain compliance and transparency, and an attitude to government. The government is just not a place for people to facilitate, wrongdoing or correct doing, but a place which protects the public purse. I think that type of culture needs to be encouraged. But more importantly, all of us realizing the sacrifices we must make for each other. So these 3 years coming, it's also a realization of burden sharing. We all going to put our shoulder to the wheel, and things might be different for a while as we build up to a Ghana beyond aid, which means hard work.
Well, as we wrap up, I'll be getting your thoughts on our relationship with our development partners, and also for the small businesses that I understand that you're so passionate about in supporting them with the stimulus package. You're listening to, or you're joining us as PM Express Business Edition. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. This is PM Express Business Edition. We're having a chat with the Finance Minister, Kenneth Friata, on managing the economy in COVID times. Honorable, I understand you're so passionate about small businesses and supporting them in these times. Why is Mr. Kenneth Friata worried about what happens to Georgia Faye and Joe the plumber?
Well, it's a matter of background because, almost 1990 was it? We started Data Bank with very little money, which was supposed to be an investment bank in Cantomanto. And so we have seen, a company of 3 people, Kelly, Togbafede, and myself, grow 30 years later to be an international company, starting with $25,000. Okay, so I just see the power, the transformative power and limitlessness of people's capacity if they persevere, they strive, and opportunity is given. And so I just believe that really is how Ghana will attain, its rightful place. And I'm just very excited when I meet young people as to what they are doing, what they are capable of doing.
Are you going to give them more stimulus package or stimulus support?
Well, we have the 600 million going. I think the banks have agreed to do another 400 million. So that is really good for us. And we'll look at how it moves. I think another issue that we in Africa also have to deal with is the whole issue of debt sustainability and how best to really, in a sense, restructure the global financial architecture. I think it's palpably unfair. An African risk premium of about 600 basis points, which means today we are paying in Africa about $44 billion of debt servicing each year because it's at about 8%. Imagine if it was a 2%, then you are talking about some 13 billion that will still stay on this land. And so we are putting together a coalition of minds to really address that issue. So that is going parallel to the work we are doing at home.
Would our relationship with the development partners change going forward, or in terms of how they should also give us more room to make these negotiations?
Yeah, I think there's nothing, freedom is never given freely unless you fight for it. So I think it's up to us to do that and get those well-meaning partners to be with us in this to create justice.
What do you have for say finally to Ghanaians and businesses and firms that are struggling in these times, and what word of encouragement and commitment do you have to share with them?
I think the commitment, if anything, is that in the President's statement, yes, we have to save life first and foremost. Secondly, we have to get the small and medium scale and informal market people operating with resources. Now we have to look at the whole issue of job creation and job losses and make sure we stymie it, and then put new capital into the system to accelerate a recovery.
But for you, the fiscal discipline, you're going to get that from you in the election year.
Election year, I mean, the resources that we are going to put in this economy is to help recovery, you know, and also to stymie the effect of COVID-19, but not because we are being profligate about election spending.
Honorable, I thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it. And I know we'll have an opportunity again with you at the end of the year to see how things went and whether you are looking forward to actually happen. If you, and it has to be a business edition, PM Express, as we draw the curtain down, having a chat with the finance minister on as appreciating how they are managing the economy in these COVID-19 times. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.